Leave the check your kid at the door, Bruce, all right? But I have to say, we opened the conversation with your last question, okay? So Buddhism says that, you don't last more than a millisecond as a static being, Perceptions are shifting about a millisecond, right? So the non-Buddhists raise the question of, well, then who's collecting the karma? It's not really very fair if the guy who was here a second ago is different than the guy that's here a minute later, and somehow what you did 2 years ago is going to ripen upon some totally different guy, 3 years down the road. So they take issue and they say, well, this is a problem because, if you just changed and you're a different being, then it doesn't seem very fair that the new being is getting the karma rather than the old being that collected it. Right? So we talk. So like within 5 minutes, you're a totally different person, right? I mean, you have so many different thoughts. You've changed so much.
Who said it's supposed to be fair?
Well, there's that, right? Yeah. Who said life was fair? Yeah. So, you hear people say, "Oh, their car broke down. That was their karma," right? And it strikes me that when people talk about karma, they talk about singular events. Like, you got a flat, that was a karmic ripening, right? But everything is karma, right? And you and I are the sum total of our karmic ripenings, right? So we're the sum total of the karmic seeds which are going off and ripening at any given instant. So, you consist of all of the perceptions going off in your mind at any given moment. That's who and what you are at any given moment, is the seeds which are firing, the impulses which are firing in your mind at any given moment, right? And so that's what makes us who we are, and that's all we are from a Buddhist perspective. We are nothing more than the karmic ripenings from moment to moment. The karmas which are ripening in this moment are different than the karmas which are ripening in the next moment, right? The next moment, the next moment, right? So, they don't say that there's someone running the show, a master controlling the body and the mind. They don't say that it's just a bunch of chemicals and atoms that came together in the right proportion, some self-existent smallest particle are the basis of a being. They don't say that we're just a collection of self-existent experiences, which we call our life. What we are is the firing of our karmas in any given moment, in any given instant, right? So the feeling that we're hearing our thoughts, the feeling that we're telling our mind what to do, is a karmic ripening, is a perceptual event. Right? So the fact that we are nothing more than karmic seeds going off in fast succession means that we could be anything at any instant. We could be a tantric deity in the next instant if those were the karmic seeds which were triggered and which fire. And that's the nature of the thing, isn't it? As we collect massive, powerful virtues, we start to have karmic seeds pop to see different things. And it's like, whoa, what was that? Right? That was unusual, or that was different. Right? And so that's the basis of collecting very powerful karmas, is to start to trigger them and to start to perceive ourselves and our world and our reality in a much holier way, in a much higher way. Right? So, Bruce, your question, your issue of, I don't even remember what it was. It was something about karma.
Karma and the presence of various things that we call by different labels, subtle bodies, pranic bodies.
So all of those things, all of those names, all of those ideas, all those labels are simply energetic impulses firing, karmic seeds ripening at any given instant. To the extent we have that concept, to the extent we have that experience, the karmic seed going off. And when the karmic seed doesn't go off, it doesn't exist for us. And the idea doesn't exist for us. And you see that. People forget about practice. It's gone. It's not even in their mind anymore. It doesn't exist for them.
Even that concept is infinitesimally small, and the emptiness of the seed is that, like you're saying with the flat tire, it's a seed that went off that created a flat tire. Well, but which part of the seed created the flat tire? instance can you pinpoint and tie to a specific seed? You can't really, right?
Okay.
Because if each moment of your life is infinitesimally small and you can never really pinpoint a timeline, then you can never really pinpoint the karmic seed.
Yeah, I don't see how anyone who's not a Buddha could try to precisely define exact karmic causation. I mean, the scriptures say that karma is a deeply hidden phenomenon that only Buddha can see. You know, why is that thread hanging slightly to the left and slightly different angle from the other thread? You know, well, there's a cause for that. You know, an enlightened being could see exactly what the cause was 10 million years ago. If something happened, you know, I don't know. But it's well beyond me, obviously. So, from my perspective, in a practical sense, I understand the rules of the game, you know, and what I need to do, and it's just a matter of doing it, getting the result. Okay, so what happens here is you know, the non-Buddhists are saying, look, if you smash a bug, you know, in 1305, why should the guy who changed in 1310 collect the karma? And so Master Shantideva addresses that. Because we're saying, all you are is these ripenings of karma. All we are is the instant by instant ripening of karma, right? That's who we are, and that's what we are. All right. Okay, so the first one is, I'm going to skip the Tibetan. This first point, and this is the line which is Lejepe Dudang Drebu Yongwe Du Ki Gamsak Zetate. You want the Tibetan? No. Right, she says, I want to go home. So they're saying the person who collects the karmic cause, and the person who collects the result are not the same two people, right? Yeah? So the non-Buddhists have this idea of the soul. And so Master Shantideva's answer to them is pretty simple. We have the same problem with your soul, don't you? I mean, the soul of the person 5 years ago is different. You know, the person has changed. The person who's 10 and collected the karma is different than the person who's 15 and experiences the result. So what's the difference to you, non-Buddhists? You're not really putting up a very good argument. So it's not really a strong answer, but it's his first answer.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yours is bad too. Okay.
Yeah, yours is just as bad as ours. So shut up, right? No disrespect. All right. Let's see. I'm just going to skim through things because it'll go too late. Yeah, I mean, Master Shantideva basically says, your argument's stupid because you believe everything that we believe. So why are you picking a fight with us? That's his first refutation. All right, the second refutation is that it's impossible to experience the result at the same moment you create a cause. And they're basically saying, look, it's either different people who are it's a different person who establishes the cause and collects the result, or it's the same person. If it's the same person, then it would have to all happen in an instant. You would have to collect the cause and get the result in the same instant, right? Yeah. And so it's not possible, right? I mean, you can't have a cause and a result simultaneously. One precedes the other, right? So when you give away some money, you have to wait for it to, you have to wait for the karma to ripen to get the result. You plant a seed in the ground, you have to wait for the gestation before it brings its result. So they're trying to get out of the fact that the self changes. And this is one way that they try to do it. They say it all happens instantaneously. Master Shantideva is saying, look, the guy's either experiencing the karma 2 years later, and he's a different guy, or it's all happening instantaneously, and it's not possible to happen instantaneously. And which one do you want? So their position is weak. If it's all happening instantaneously, the moment you start to smash the bug, your ribs start to break, right? I mean, simultaneously, right? And it doesn't work that way, obviously. You can observe it, right? If it did work that way. Arya Nagarjuna said one of the worst problems with karma is the time delay, and that you have to can't see the immediate result, and you don't have direct experiential proof. So, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So, if it did, then nobody would be cheating or stealing, and it would be a perfectly virtuous world, because it would be instantaneous, personal result for everything that one did of a negative bent, right? Okay, let's see. So then they says it's all right to say that the person who causes the karma and the one who experiences the result are the same person going on in a stream. So Master Shantideva says, look, no problem to call the stream of experience a person. The fact that karma is ripening by the millisecond, and then more karma is ripening the next millisecond, and more karma is ripening the next millisecond, and and on, infinitely. He said, you can call that a person, no problem. I don't have a problem with you calling that a person. They're not a self-existent person, obviously, which is what the non-Buddhists are looking for, right? So the non-Buddhists are saying there's this permanent, unchanging little crystal thing inside, that they're trying to pin it on. And so we say, no, you're the constant flow of your karma, you're the constant shifting of your karma, you're nothing more than that. Right? You don't have karma, you are karma. It's a very interesting distinction. People say, oh, I collected karma. Yeah, you are karma. We think in terms of having a karmic pocket where we're storing our karma, right? But in fact, we are the sum total of our karma. I mean, you can think of it like as you're a karmic cloud. You have all these subtle energetic impulses that you've collected, right? I mean, it's a digression to the karma course, and we're a minute late, but what the hell? So, what is karma? Karma is the residual energy that's left at the end of the perceptual event. You see yourself yelling, and there's some energy left at the end of it, and you collect that. That residual energy stays with you. It's what you are. You are that karma. You are that energetic residue. Right? Every time we yell, or love, or compassionate, we collect that energetic residue, and that becomes us. We are that. Yeah, Chris.
How is it that a person cannot survive from 1 millisecond to the next, but this thing you're calling energy can?
What do you mean a person? You mean the idea of a person?
We're saying that the person who committed the karmic act is not the one who collects it.
But then Master Shantideva says, look, you could call all those milliseconds streaming along a person, no problem. So they exist as an idea, and that is the collection of all those milliseconds of karma ripening.
So it's
Then what was the point of making the discrimination between the fact that the person who collected the karma was not, emphatically not the person who collected it?
Well, he's arguing with the non-Buddhists. The non-Buddhists say, look, I don't like your explanation. There has to be some kind of self-existent, like little crystal thing that lasts and doesn't change, because that's where all the karma is collected and stored. That's kind of what the non-Buddhists are saying. The non-Buddhists are saying there has to be a repository or something which lasts over time for the karma to get stuck there.
But if they had described that crystal thing as in fact a persistent energy, then they would be making the same argument then as you're making now.
If they defined it the same way as millisecond by millisecond ripenings, be the same, right? But they don't say that. They say it's self-existent, lasting, blah blah, soul-like thing. Definition of terms, right? Okay, so Master Shantideva says no problem. You can call them that. The flow of their karma, you can call a person. The flow of that karmic stream, you can call a person, no problem. Why did we think of them as a person? Why do we think of ourselves as a person? Because we're forced to by our past karma. Because our mind functions in a particular way. I mean, to perceive John over the course of a lifetime, my mind has to function in a certain way. Right? There are people who become senile. They can't remember the past. They can't remember anybody. Their mind doesn't function to remember a lifetime in the ways that ours does. So it's not a self-existent thing to have a lifetime to define oneself that way or to even think of it that way. So there are people who are totally disconnected from moment to moment, and they're not even aware of themselves living in the same way, moment to moment, as we are. And that's a karmic result too, right? All right, let's see. I mean, what's emptiness? Emptiness is the fact that there's nothing else there. You know, we exist as our karmic ripenings, moment to moment, and there's nothing else there. That's emptiness. The emptiness with me is the fact that there's nothing else there except for my karmic ripenings, moment to moment. You know, and can you perceive that? Right? That's my emptiness, right? So. I mean, what's the point of all this, right? The negative karma that I collect is going to produce my death and suffering in my life. I am simply the momentary expression of karmic seeds. You know, to the extent I collect suffering karmic seeds, then I am the moment-to-moment existence of suffering. To the extent I collect beautiful, holy, virtuous karmic seeds, then I am the moment-to-moment existence of virtue and holiness. That's all. So bottom line is, you have to do it, right? If you want to confirm these things, you know, these are very holy ideas which you can confirm personally. And the only way to confirm it is by doing it. You know, you can become a holy, enlightened being in this lifetime. And unfortunately, it takes effort. You know, one has to do it. One has to go out and stop oneself from behaving negatively and engage in virtue. And it's the only way to do it. You know, if you don't practice, it'll never happen, and you'll never be able to confirm it. So, I mean, you can confirm its non-proof. You can not confirm it by not practicing. Right? Not practicing won't tell you anything. Right? I mean, the worst thing that'll happen is you know, you become a nicer person. I mean, let's say all this is not true, and you go out and try this. The worst thing that'll happen to you is you become a nicer person. Right? And if you go out and try it and it is true, then you get some results which are very profound. Right? So. Make sure I cover it. Okay. I mean, I suppose the last thing to say is, you know, if you look down and you don't see something which is very pleasing to you, then you have to collect more virtue. You know, I mean, the way we see, I mean, look at the Dalai Lama. How do we see the Dalai Lama, right? How we see the Dalai Lama is our problem. How the Dalai Lama sees himself is his problem, right? We and he, I think, don't see the same thing. You know, speculation on my part, but we feel pretty comfortable with it, right? So, you know, there is no John that exists out there, you know, nor Bruce, nor G, nor anyone else. You know, there are momentary ripenings of perception, and that's all. And if we can trigger a momentary ripening of perception, which is holy, then that will be our valid reality and our valid experience, right? So, you have to try, you have to practice. So.
And when you say it's holy, it's also, as a Buddha, you're holding it as holy and empty, or you're flickering in between. It's one and the same.
Is there an arm out here that exists in any other way beyond how I think of it or perceive it? Is there any arm out here that exists independent of my perception?
Well, I see an arm from my perception.
There's no harm independent of perception.
Someone has to perceive an arm for there to be.
If I adjust my perceptions, could I perceive something differently? If my perceptions change, could I perceive something different?
Sure. Damn holy arm.
That's
It's
emptiness. That's the lack of self-existence of this arm. That's emptiness. So that's the meditation of emptiness. That's discovering emptiness. There is no arm here. There is only perception. And as the perception shifts, this shifts.
But were you asking about whether or not being like label. When you say something is holy, it sounded like you were asking if that's actually labeling it and making it self-existent rather than not self-existent. That's what I thought you were asking.
Yeah.
Like if you say
Buddha's
something is
innocent.
holy, then you've labeled it as something that exists independently outside of your perception.
So what does it mean to be a Buddha? What does it mean to be enlightened? What does it mean to be in paradise? It means that every perception is holy on every level all the time. Ultimately holy on every level all the time. I mean, it's not self-existent. It's a perceptual event. Right? Nothing is self-existent. There's no self-existent Buddha. There's no self-existent paradise. There's no self-existent anything. So Buddha's defined definition of terms. Paradise, nirvana, enlightenment, definition of terms, right? It's a state where you are perceiving ultimate goodness and ultimate bliss and omniscience and all the other things described all the time as a perceptual event. And it's your valid reality because perception is reality. Right? If you don't have that perception, then you're not enlightened. You're in some lesser state. It's just perceptual. So when you get to the point where you only perceive ultimate purity and ultimate goodness and ultimate bliss and omniscience and all the rest, then you can throw a label of enlightenment on there. You can throw the label of Buddhahood on there, or whatever paradise, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I imagine it'd be pretty good along the way too. You get to the whatever Bodhisattva Bhumi, 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th or whatever it is. I imagine it'd be pretty happy guy, and you can throw whatever label you want on that. I mean, we get hung up on these terms, right? Buddha, enlightenment, paradise. It's just, ultimate goodness, ultimate purity, ultimate bliss, right? Ultimate everything, highest state.
But when you recognize that the object that you're looking at, is empty, that can also be synonymous with pure. It's stainless and these kind of other things, and then it starts to be imbued with good quality, and it's something like that, right?
Because we're prone to seeing things self-existently, we tend to vacillate between seeing things as self-existently ordinary, or self-existently bad, or self-existently holy. So, those who are prone to self-existent view will say, all right, he's not a self-existently bad guy. He's a self-existently holy guy. And I'll do whatever he says. Or he can do no wrong, or she can do no wrong, or whatever the case may be, right? It's all wrong view. And it's just a blank screen for you to project your stuff. That's all. To the extent you're projecting your holiness, you'll see a holy being. To the extent you're projecting your crap, you'll see a crappy being. That's all. If you had nothing but goodness, you'd project, paradise all over the place. That's all.
Sashe Puki Tushin Neto Chan Rira Lingshi Ninglegin Pagi Sange Shindu Nite Uwagi Rokun Namda Shingla Trupasho
See the holy being at your crown become smaller and smaller, orb of light, brighter, entering your heart, blessing your mind stream. By the goodness of these classes, may we quickly come to realize ultimate reality, and quickly end all afflictions and suffering in this very life, bringing all beings to paradise. Thank you.